This video is going to teach you how to create a dark fantasy adventure for your D&D campaign. My name is Ben Byrne, and we're going to look at 4 dark fantasy adventures written for Grimhollow. There are essential pillars of dark fantasy adventures that separate them from typical D&D stories. Commonly, horror, violence, frightening monsters, and dangerous magic. Most D&D adventures will have some of those ingredients in one form or another. But more importantly to dark fantasy are the esoteric themes of mystery and suspense, moral dilemmas, tragic endings, and monstrous humanity. Mixing all of these ingredients together in the right way can be tricky, but doing so effectively is how I write adventures for Grimhollow. So here's an example. Your characters arrive in a small coastal village called Verfa, next to a great forest. It's early spring in Valika, where this adventure is set, and a monster awoke during the previous winter, which still preys upon the villagers from the woods. The Jarl of Verfa asks you to hunt and slay the monster after the village warriors went missing during their attempt. This adventure initially appears to be structured like a straightforward monster hunt, but it uses mystery and suspense to give the monster an atmosphere of dread. As we said in one of our popular videos on how you can prepare a monster hunt adventure, players should not know what the monster is from the beginning, because part of the fun for players is uncovering clues to learn the monster's identity. A mystery monster also gives you, the GM, opportunities to use suspense and horror as the clues players discover, such as the horrifically violent fate of Verfa's warriors. Their corpses are found ripped to shreds and scattered through the forest. Shocks of blood stain snow and entrails hang from branches. What creature could do this? The investigation also allows you to embed story details in the adventure that build towards other pillars of dark fantasy, such as moral dilemmas and dangerous magic. While hunting Verfa's beast, you learn the Jarl is actually disliked in the village and that he forbids entry into the nearby forest because he claims it's the domain of the Fae, and the monster is revealed to be a Garm, also called a Hellgrim in Charnot, which is a colossal wolf sent by the Fae courts to punish individuals who have offended them. You might discover that the Jarl broke a Fae pact from years earlier, which has conjured the Garm. Worse, he's cowering in the village whilst his villagers die for his mistakes. When this mystery is exposed, you must decide whether to slay the Garm and save Verfa or bring the Jarl to justice instead. Running this one-shot at conventions like Gen Con this year has yielded some really interesting results from players who sided with the Jarl and those who sided with the monster. This moral choice is what separates this adventure from a typical D&D tale, because the goal isn't merely to kill the monster and get the gold. Dark fantasy tries to complicate its NPCs so that you might end up accomplishing goals for the villain. Moral dilemmas really are a key ingredient that separates dark fantasy adventures from other role-playing genres, which are battles between clearly good and clearly evil. In dark fantasy, no decision should be without ethical qualms. You know you've tuned it just right as the GM when the players have to stop and ask themselves if their actions are justified at least once during the adventure. For example, in Charnot, you've heard rumors about the cursed daughter of the deceased Duke Lorraine. The child heir has been given the nickname the Bubbling Duchess. The young Duchess Lorraine is arcanely gifted, but she cannot control her magic and lacks the maturity to understand that she is a danger to those around her. The Duchess hiccups bubbles when she's amused, but sets servants aflame when she's displeased. She conjures fearsome monsters when she feels lonely, and unable to lift the curse that ails the Duchess and quite terrified of her power, Lorraine's court has called for your aid to help find a cure. But secretly you learn 2 things. The first is that the Duchess is not cursed, but born from a tryst with an archfey, which threatens her legitimacy to inherit the duchy. Her court wishes to keep this quiet because it could trigger a war of succession. You are asked to sneak the Duchess out of the palace without anybody knowing, not even her attendants or the palace guards, who will attack on sight if you are caught. This secrecy is required because the second secret is that there is a separate plot to assassinate the Duchess for the stability of the realm and the safety of those around her. Members of Duchess Lorraine's court fall on both sides of these two conspiracies, and you as the players are free to choose who to side with. Will you escort the Duchess to safety, even if it means possibly cutting through her sworn guards and servants to maintain the secrecy of her escape? Or will you try sneaking through the palace defenses to destroy this chaos sorcerer before she becomes a local tyrant? This adventure ends with the question of Duchess Lorraine's true parentage open, because it's a starter adventure to introduce you to the dark fantasy of Grimhollow. In fact, all the adventures that I'm describing will be fully written and part of our October Kickstarter because you've been asking for more Grimhollow adventure content. The Kickstarter is not just a revision of Grimhollow's campaign guide and player's guides, but also offers 5 third-level adventures to quickstart your Etheirys campaign. One will be set in each of Etheirys' 5 nations, giving you different flavors of horror and seeds to begin your story in Sharno, Astoya, or the Burak Empire. Or you can run the adventures together as a 5-session mini-campaign tour of the realms. Click the link here or down in the description to follow the Kickstarter and learn more, and you can also sign up to access playtest content right now through that same link. The city is burning because of you. Insidious magic has marked your destiny. Maybe you've inherited a curse, studied forbidden arcana, or helped a mage to escape justice. In any case, you are a heretic in the eyes of the Arcanist Inquisition, and you must escape the city before you are captured and forced to confess, or worse, burned alive. You start this adventure holed up in a basement while the sounds of rioting echo in the streets around you. Commoners are burning their own city to the ground in religious fanaticism. Anyone with even a hint of magic to them is dragged to the cathedral where the air smells of burned flesh, and they are tried and sentenced by the Inquisitor priest. Your quest is simple: escape. You must journey through the city, avoiding detection until you reach the harbor. There, you can board a ship to safety, but there are many streets between you and the docks, and many dangerous encounters along the way. A Wexelkin is getting kicked to pieces by riled townsfolk. You can intervene to save the construct's life, but doing so draws the attention of the Inquisition. They might let you pass for a sizable bribe, but assuming that you can afford it, can you trust that they won't sell you out afterwards? And fighting your way through also risks drawing attention. This adventure doesn't cast your party as heroic adventurers or even stoic monster hunters. You are fugitives whose only choice to live is to flee. There is no way to save the city from the Inquisition because, in some ways, the city is the Inquisition. Yet you may still choose to journey to the cathedral and confront the Inquisitor priest instead of escaping. Doing so risks becoming martyrs, killed by the Inquisition, but your story of resistance lives on. This session could act as a prologue for the rest of your actual campaign, where you play as characters who remember the stories of those you played in this prologue. Or you could merely be captured by the Inquisition, taking your campaign in a direction where you first need to break free. Tragic endings are one of the most difficult pillars of dark fantasy to use effectively because role-playing stories don't and shouldn't have preset conclusions. It's not fun for players to feel like the story is hemming them into only one course of action. So let players make legitimate choices and avoid using GM fiat to force failure. That said, the party should be clear that the Inquisition is a monolithic institution with powerful mage hunters who will crush a third-level party in a fair fight. With this knowledge, the players can choose whether to defy tyranny nevertheless and march to the cathedral, or settle to watch from a boat as the city burns and innocent screams carry on the wind. You You have been summoned by the Viscount Varlov to Kervina, the fortress that looms over the Estoyan city of Fallowheart. Your vampiric lord is asking for a favor. Citizens of Fallowheart are being murdered, usually not an uncommon occurrence in a city where the Viscount's own vampiric spawn stalk the dark alleys. However, these deaths are being openly displayed in defiance of the Viscount. Their remains are hung from city corners with placards preaching dissent and anarchy. A threat to the Viscount's authority is a threat to the stability of the realm, and so you have been asked to hunt these murderers down. And there are a number of leads to follow. You could examine a murder victim to learn the methods of your quarry, question a witness who found a body, or use underworld contacts to learn of hideouts within the city. You soon discover a flooded warehouse beneath Brevich, the city docks, which can only be entered via an entirely submerged tunnel, the perfect place a vampire cannot enter. Here, this coalition of dissidents hides, each with a reason to hate the Viscount. One is a member of the Order of Dawn, sworn to destroy the vampires ruling Astoya. Another is an agent of the neighboring Burak Empire sent to destabilize Astoya's government. A third is a Dhampir spawn of Varlov, loyal to his mortal heritage. If you don't wish to take the Viscount's coin, you could always join these rebels. Yet revolution is a violent business because these rebels aren't just hunting vampires. They target mortal bureaucrats, city guards, wealthy merchants, and castle servants. Anyone who aids or consolidates the Viscount's power in any way. This adventure uses the dark fantasy ingredients of moral dilemmas and tragic endings. Kill the rebels, and the blood-drenched power of the Viscount is sustained. Join the rebels, and even if you're comfortable utilizing their anarchic tactics, this entire quest was a ruse for you to lure them out of hiding. The Viscount scries your adventure and sends his spawn to massacre the dissonants along with whoever has joined them. Will you be able to escape with your life? But this adventure, along with the previous one, also plays with the theme of monstrous humanity. In Castinella, that theme is a bit more literal through the Inquisition. But many monsters are merely reflections of the worst aspects of humanity. And what better analogy is there for a despotic authoritarian than a blood-draining vampire? This adventure replaces the role of a benevolent king asking you to apprehend bandits with a vampire lord requesting your aid to hunt dissonants. Is there much of a difference between the two? If you've remained loyal to the Viscount, he may send you on further quests, like what we described in this video, which outlines an entire gothic horror campaign set in Astoya. Or you can follow the Kickstarter launching on October 1st by clicking this link here and see more about what the 5th adventure in this pack will be, set within the Burak Empire.